Indonesia is one of the largest archipelagic countries in the world, with more than 17,000 islands that spread over an area of more than 2 million kilometer squares. Indonesia is host to several unique ecosystems containing a large number of diverse species. At least 10% of the world's flowering species, which counts to over 25,000 species, flourish in Indonesia. There are also 12% of the world's mammals, 16% of reptiles, 17% of birds, 6% of amphibians, and over 45% of fishes, all of which are parts of the nation's lush biodiversity. In order to preserve its biodiversity, which also contributes hugely to the world, Indonesia has taken significant steps in accordance to the national and global target on biodiversity framework. The government has allocated more than 500 units of protected areas spread throughout the country, with the total coverage area of 22 million hectares terrestrial and 20 million marine protected area. Because of its uniqueness and universal values, 6 protected areas are recognized as World Heritage Sites, 16 Biosphere Reserves, 7 Ramsar Sites, and 7 ASEAN Heritage Sites. Many studies and researches has also been conducted to identify plants and animals to assess their potential uses for medicine, food, energy, and biocontrol for chemical hazard. Some community-driven activities such as ecotourism has also contributed to the effort to preserve Indonesia's biodiversity, which also encouraged cooperation among local stakeholders. The results are heartening. By 2019, Indonesia has been able to increase the population of endemic and priority species. Communities have also enjoyed benefits from this improved environment through ecotourism, environmental services, and other significant conditions, which contribute to their quality of life as a whole. There is little doubt that Indonesia's vast biodiversity plays a hugely significant role in reducing the impacts of climate change. By preserving its biodiversity and its ecosystems, Indonesia can help support the entire planet's sustainability and ensure a better future for all humankind.
Sejarah Fakultas Kehutanan. UGM resmi didirikan pada tanggal 19 Desember 1949 dan merupakan universitas yang bersifat nasional. Selain itu, UGM juga berperan sebagai pengemban Pancasila dan sebagai universitas pembina di Indonesia. Pada saat didirikan, UGM hanya memiliki 6 fakultas dan salah satu di antaranya adalah Fakultas Pertanian. Dalam perkembangan selanjutnya, melalui Surat Keputusan Menteri Perguruan Tinggi dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Nomor 99 Tahun 1963, Fakultas Pertanian dan Kehutanan UGM terpisah menjadi 3 fakultas, yaitu Fakultas Pertanian, Fakultas Teknologi Pertanian, dan Fakultas Kehutanan. Dengan demikian, Fakultas Kehutanan UGM secara resmi dinyatakan berdiri pada tanggal 17 Agustus 1963. Dekan pertama Fakultas Kehutanan UGM adalah Profesor Insinyur Sudarwono Harjosudiro. Berdasarkan SK Direktur Jenderal Pendidikan Tinggi, SK Dirjen Dikti Nomor 163 Tahun 2007 tentang pengaturan program studi dan Surat Keputusan Rektor Nomor 89 Tahun 2010, tanggal 1 Februari 2010, mensahkan perubahan keempat program studi di Fakultas Kehutanan menjadi satu dengan nama Program Studi Kehutanan. Program Studi Kehutanan terdiri dari 4 bagian, yaitu 1. Departemen Manajemen Hutan, 2. Departemen Silvikultur, 3. Departemen Teknologi Hasil Hutan, dan 4. Departemen Konservasi Sumber Daya Hutan. Di Fakultas Kehutanan terdapat Dewan Perwakilan Mahasiswa atau DPM yang berperan sebagai badan legislatif mahasiswa dan lembaga eksekutif mahasiswa atau LEM. Kemudian terdapat 4 himpunan mahasiswa minat. Di antaranya yaitu Keluarga Mahasiswa Manajemen Hutan atau KMMH, Himpunan Mahasiswa Budidaya atau HIMABA, Family of Forest Product Technology atau Foresttech, dan Family of Forest Conservation atau Forestation. Di samping itu, terdapat Badan Semi Otonom atau BSO yang meliputi organisasi pecinta alam atau Mapala Silvagama, Komunitas Seni Kehutanan atau KSK, Keluarga Mahasiswa Islam Kehutanan atau KMIK, dan Forestry Study Club atau FSC. Sedangkan International Forestry Student Association atau IFSA dan Keluarga Mahasiswa Kristen Kehutanan atau BONITA termasuk ke dalam non-BSO.
FFI bekerja di Indonesia sejak tahun 1996. Itu awalnya bekerjasama dengan LIPI untuk melakukan penelitian-penelitian, terutama penelitian terkait dengan harimau Sumatera. Kemudian berkembang, kemudian kita ada kerjasama dengan Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan, waktu itu Kementerian Kehutanan, terkait dengan pengelolaan spesies-spesies yang dilindungi. Tantangan terbesarnya adalah kata kuncinya sebenarnya kepedulian. Ya, kata kuncinya adalah kepedulian. Kalau semua sudah peduli, maka secara umum sebenarnya pekerjaannya sudah done. Tapi masalahnya itu, bagaimana kita mendorong semua pihak untuk peduli menyelamatkan planet kita ini bersama-sama. Itu tantangan yang paling besar. Kearifan lokal masyarakat juga sangat penting di sana. Jadi di lain pihak kita melihat ada ancaman, tapi di lain pihak juga kita melihat ada kearifan masyarakat untuk menjaga hutannya. Nah, itu yang kita coba untuk dorong untuk dikembangkan di sana. Planet kita ini yang sustaining the planet, itu jangka panjang paling panjang kita. Jadi itu tujuan jangka panjang keberadaan FFI. Bukan hanya di Indonesia, tapi di dunia.
Society Journal, and Journal Ilmu Kehutanan, SYMPOSIA. But before we start the presentation sessions, allow me to read the presentation guidelines for the smoothness of our session. First, each expert talk participants is scheduled for 20 minutes, except keynote speaker have 30 minutes. And for the question and answer sessions will be held at the end of the session. So then, without any further ado, please welcome our chair sessions. For Dr. Dwi Laraswati, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the brief and nice introduction of me, and it's such an honor for me to be here, and nice to see you for the panelies. I think we already have Pak Silvio Martini from University of Sao Paulo, and then we have Pak Ardi from BKSDA Sumatera Barat. I hope that all of us are healthy and happy always, and we also have Mbak Puspita Insan Kamil and Pak Doni Gunariadi. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, okay, thank you very much for the time. Okay, for the rule of these sessions already mentioned by the Master of Ceremony, Mbak Eta, thank you very much. And maybe I would like to just mention about the background, the brief background of our speaker. So Mr. Silvio Martini as a key speaker for this session, and he will give us a great talk about human-wildlife coexistence, science and practice. I think this is a very timely topic about human and wildlife interaction. And then followed by Mr. Adi Andono, and he will give us talk about reducing human and wildlife conflict by local wisdom approach at West Sumatra province. Is kind of very interesting topic. And then we also have a topic about community-based human Komodo conflict mitigation effort in North Flores, Indonesia, that will be delivered by Mbak Puspita Insan Kamil. And then we also have a great talk from Pak Doni about a better human wildlife conflict mitigation in Sumatra, some challenges and opportunity on using technology. Is very timely topic. And then for the last, we will have a great talk. I think this is from private sector from Pak Muhammad Silmi. He will give us a talk about the role of private landowners in wildlife conservation and management. So without any further ado, so I'm inviting for the first speaker and also for the key speaker for this session. So please welcome Silvio Martini. And you have 30 minutes to deliver your talk. I think this is very interesting topic, and we're really looking forward for your talk. Okay, and maybe if you have some more elaboration about yourself, so please introduce yourself, and then you can continue with your presentation. Okay, please welcome Pak Silvio. Time is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope you can see my slide.
Yes, great.
Presentation mode, and you can listen to me. Yes. All right. So here we go. Many thanks to the WECMIC organizers for the opportunity. In particular to you, Iding Haidir, for the invitation. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope you are all okay. I am fine, even though it's what, 4:10 a.m. I'm speaking from Piracicaba, about 2 hours drive from Sao Paulo City, Brazil, where I am affiliated to the University of Sao Paulo. I am a biologist by training, but since before my PhD, I have been working in the field of human dimensions, which refers to the application of social science theories and methods to understand human wildlife interactions and inform management and policy decisions. I would like to start by telling you the story of one of the most fascinating experiences I had as a researcher in recent years. As the executive coordinator of the National Action Plan for the Conservation of Big Cats, I was called upon to some 3 years ago, investigated the case of 2 supposed fatal jaguar attacks on humans in the Xingu Indigenous Park in central Brazil. A Amayura woman and a Waura man had been allegedly killed by a jaguar. The attack sites were just 23 kilometers apart. As a note, there has been only one officially recorded case of a fatal, non-provoked fatal jaguar attack on a human in Brazil, which took place in the Pantanal back in 2008. So the Xingu case would thus be something very unusual. We visited the sites and interviewed several witnesses. Most of them confirmed the victims had been killed by a jaguar, not by a regular jaguar though, but by a were jaguar or a cape jaguar, which is the feiticeiro, the sorcerer, wearing a jaguar cape so that he can shape shift into a jaguar and kill people in the night. The sorcerer is a member of the tribe, but no one knows who he is. Nonetheless, his identity can be revealed if the pajé, the shaman, boils a strand of the victim's hair. Then the first person in the tribe to fall ill will be the sorcerer. Well, by the time we visited, the pajé, the shaman, had done his job and revealed the identity of the sorcerer. Relatives of the victims were vowing, kill him. It never happened, luckily. We used interviews and also camera traps to assess the situation, and we have found strong evidence that at least the woman was actually killed by a jaguar. Nonetheless, the case remains inconclusive. And I'm afraid the truth will always lay beyond the reach of our conventional methods. Trained to think within the boundaries of rationality, I found myself immersed in this particular cosmovision that defies our common sense. Logic-based frameworks to predict human behavior may not apply here. What could be more fundamental in the field of human-wildlife interactions than the assumption that humans and wildlife are different entities? But for some indigenous peoples in Xingu and other parts of Amazonia, there is no clear distinction between a human and a jaguar. And it makes perfect sense to them. This is another story. Parque das Aves, or Bird Park, is one of the most important zoos in Brazil, mainly due to its captive breeding programs for endangered species. The park receives over 800,000 visitors a year. Despite its focus on species from the Atlantic forest, one of the park's most iconic animals has always been the flamingo. The park is located literally across the street from the Iguaçu National Park, which is home to a small yet growing population of around 28 jaguars. And where the Jaguars of Iguaçu project has been developing a series of activities to improve human-jaguar relationship with a focus on reducing the fear, increasing tolerance among farmers outside the park. Exactly 1 week ago, 2 jaguars from Iguaçu National Park, a mother and her 1 cub, entered the flamingo's enclosure and caused the death of 172 out of the 174 flamingos. Some died when attacked by the jaguars, while others died from the stress of the situation. Needless to say, the terrible incident had immediate and extensive repercussions, gaining prominence on news sites and especially on social media. The fake news that the incident was the result of a jaguar outbreak went viral. Both Parque das Aves and Jaguars of Iguaçu project were quick to communicate to the press what had happened and clarify that the jaguars are still endangered in the region and that the jaguars didn't do anything wrong. They were just being jaguars, right? The incident will certainly have a significant negative impact on Parque das Aves. And time will tell, time and our regular surveys will tell the actual impact of this incident on human-jaguar relationships. From the very traditional, the very modern context, these two stories illustrate how complex human-wildlife interactions can be when we look at the social and cultural dimensions of the relationship. The same species, in this case, the jaguar, can be a factor of material, a driver of material and affective losses, a commodity, hassle, and a source of inspiration and fascination depending on the situation. An important field of research and application that has been dedicated to these issues is the field of human-wildlife conflict. The field of human-wildlife conflict has been expanding its scope since it started to receive the attention of researchers some 20 years ago, to the point that it has been increasingly replaced in the last 10 years by a broader, more solution-oriented and more inclusive concept and approach, which is the human-wildlife coexistence. The number of publications with human-wildlife coexistence in the title has been growing exponentially over the last 10 years. The coexistence approach integrates ecological and social dimensions, and therefore a framework for assessing coexistence must include not only an axis for the situation of the wildlife in question, but also the situation of the people involved in the interaction. When endangered wildlife causes a negative impact on people and people retaliate, we have the classic human-wildlife conflict situation. In the upper quadrant, the wildlife is in a bad situation, but unlike the conflict, there are people benefiting from the interaction. In the lower right quadrant, wildlife is thriving, but bothering some people. Wildlife vehicle collisions and zoonotic diseases can involve both endangered and abundant wildlife, but the interaction is always bad for people. And in this quadrant, the situation is good for both sides. And I call this convivencia, the Portuguese and Spanish word for living together. The objective of managing for coexistence would be not only to shift the situations in the left half of the figure where we have a conservation problem to the right, but also and explicitly shift the situation in the lower half of the figure where we have a social problem to the top. And this win-win interaction in the upper right quadrant is not always realistic as a management goal. From both a conservation and a social point of view, a situation in which none of the parties involved is significantly impacted by the interaction so that they can continue to exist together, not to live together so closely, but to exist together, in a sustainable way would be good enough. And this line, this purple line, would be the operational definition of coexistence as a management objective. Coexistence, therefore, this framework proposes that coexistence includes conservation, but it goes beyond that, taking into account also abundant and exotic wildlife. It includes human-wildlife conflict, but it goes further, also considering the positive interactions, and above all, it explicitly includes the social dimension. This framework, in fact, encompasses in an integrated manner all human-wildlife interactions that deserve research and management attention. Another reason to favor the use of the term coexistence is the way interest groups understand how they are affected, the affected group, the stakeholders, how they are affected. When there is an antagonism between these groups,
Silvio? I think he has bad connection. Silvio, we cannot hear you. Okay. Maybe we should be waiting for him to join again. Our apologies for the attendees. I think our speaker has unstable connection, so we are waiting him to join again with us. Okay, we still wait for Sylvia to join. So maybe we have a little bit more announcements. So for the participants, we still have more conference for next week and also for the next weeks. Okay, Sylvia already joined with us. Still no response. So please, for participants, we are inviting you to join again for our events. So please check on our website, www.wecmic.id. So we still have other interesting topics related to human and wildlife. And maybe for all participants, if you already have questions, and you can raise your questions, even though we will respond your question at the end of the session. Maybe you can put your question on the chat box from now on. Okay, I think Silvio has not joined, so maybe Pak Ardi, would you like to take over for the second speaker, maybe?
Okay.
Okay. I think this is a good idea because okay, yes, you can share your presentation. So maybe I would like to introduce you shortly. Pak Ardi is now serving as head of West Sumatra National Resources Conservation Agency. So from government official representative, I think in this session. He held master degree in forest nature conservation Wageningen University, Netherlands. So he will give us a great talk related to reducing human and wildlife conflict by local wisdom approach at West Sumatra province. I think this is very interesting, Pak Ardi, because we have been witnessing the significant growth of number of cases of conflicts between like elephant and human. So maybe from your experiences, please tell us more about your cases. Please welcome, Pak Ardi. You have 20 minutes to deliver your presentation. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes,
Okay.
clear.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to share our experience regarding new approach on human-wildlife conflict at West Sumatra province. My presentation title is Reducing Human and Wildlife Conflict by Local Wisdom Approach at West Sumatra province. My name is Ardi. Right now, I am a head of West Sumatra Nature Conservation Resources Conservation Agency. To make it simple, I will use conservation agency only. Okay. West Sumatra province is home for several threatened species. There is 2 islands in here. I mean my main island, that is Sumatra, and Mentawai Island. In my main island, more or less same kind of flora and fauna with the other place, I mean whole Sumatra. But at Mentawai is quite different. At least there is 4 endemic species of primate, such as Siberut macaca, cloth gibbon, Simakobu, and Joja. In the main island, the topography of West Sumatra is hilly, and the condition make West Sumatra has some unique species such as tiger, tapir, siamang, and Subspecies mealops. The tiger still exists because of local wisdom and condition of the forest, and in here is still good condition. Okay. Based on our regulation, human and wildlife conflict is interaction between human and wildlife that make negative effect toward human social life, economic, culture, wildlife conservation, and its environment. Actually, BKSDA or Conservation Agency face some problem regarding how to cover all West Sumatra province with only 112 officers. 112 officers are divided into forest technician, forest ranger, and administration staff. We need some strategy to deal with covering area, inside and outside conservation area, in situ or ex situ. We manage 21 conservation areas with 247,000 hectares. All conservation areas are managed by 10 resorts. In one resort is the smallest management of conservation agency. For human and wildlife conflict, the resort should have served 15 out of 19 districts at West Sumatra province. In one resort, there is only 4 until 5 staff. We call them superhuman. Okay. Based on our data in 2021, there is 33 cases human and wildlife conflict, and 90% cases were happen at outside of conservation area. In general, the conflict were happen at boundary between non-forest and forest area. The buffer area of conservation area, they are 193 Nagari out of 1,117 Nagari at West Sumatra. All of them can be as asset to reduce the conflict because Nagari have local wisdom that protect tiger and other animals. Lack of prey regarding the pandemic of African swine fever and traditional hunting for wild boar can boost the conflict among human and tiger. Moreover, illegal logging and encroachment still exist in specific area that make the conflict worse, such as at Sijunjung and Pasaman district. Okay. This is the forest at West Sumatra province. In general, divided into two, non-forest and forest area. Conservation area only have 20% of the forest at the province. So we work more or less in 80% of that area. It means we work at outside of the conservation area. Okay. Regarding data, I'm sorry, the data regarding conflict between human and wildlife is increased in every year since 2018. In this year, this cases about 33 cases since January to October. So this is the distribution of conflict. If we overlay between the coordinate of conflict data and type of forest and the distribution of resource, we can see this is the production forest. This one is conservation forest. This is still production forest. And this one is protected forest. And this one is, you can see the symbol of star. This is the tiger conflict was happened. But not only about the tiger, but also the other animal. For example, sun bear. You can see the square like this. This is the symbol of a sun bear. If we try to see, almost all the conflict at outside of the conservation area. The problem is because the resort is too far from the area that conflict. So our problem is how to deal with the problem in quickly. The only one can do is local people who live there. It means Nagari. So this is Nagari. Nagari is very different with desa or village. Based on Governor Regulation number 7, 2018, Nagari is a customary law community with some clan who live there. It has boundary in certain area, and it has its own asset such as land. Institution of Nagari divided into three. That is Kerapatan Adat Nagari, Pemerintahan Nagari, Peradilan Adat Nagari. So we work together with Kerapatan Adat Nagari. In Kerapatan Adat Nagari, there is Nini Mama or village elders, Alim Ulama Nagari or Islamic scholar, and then Candiak Pandai or group of intellectuals. Bundo Kanduang, it means mother, and Paripaga or security of Nagari. Okay, local wisdom value. The basis of Minangkabau Adat or customary law is influenced strongly by concept of the nature as should be viewed as a teacher. Minangkabau ethnic is the largest ethnic at the West Sumatra province. Based on Irwan Prayitno, he was previous governor. He said that Minangkabau is land of tiger. It's as the consequence of the word, the ethnic should protect the tiger. For Minang ethnic, tiger is a village guard. You can see the symbol of tiger in silat or traditional martial art and a folklore with the title "The Seven Tiger Men." The other thing is they call tiger is datuk. Datuk is the highest social position in Minangkabau ethnic. It seems like a founding father at the ethnic. But in the other hand, if the tiger died at the village of Nagari, the body should be buried at the village, and then our conservation agency cannot take the body out from the Nagari, even only its samples such as blood, feces, or hair. Okay, this is our experience. How local wisdom can be as a new commitment to save the tiger. This tiger, namely Sipogu. It happened in Pasaman Barat district. At 14 July 2021, Sipogu is a female tiger was seen by local community at palm oil plantation near landscape Panti Batanggadis forest. She moved too far away from the forest, more than 7 kilometers, and then in 19 of July, we catch it, and we brought to Bukit Tinggi Zoo to observe and general check-up medication. However, you can see in here, the Pasaman Barat head of district and Nini Mama, they insist to release Sipogu at the Panti Batanggadis forest. So they have to, we have to release in the same area. But we cannot release very easy. We have to make a deal first. So in here you can see, this is like a agreement between us. We have already signed in the commitment at 29th of July in the day, Tiger Day, World Tiger Day, 29th of July. Okay, this is the video. Okay. But the other hand, we face a local wisdom barrier at Pasaman. It was happened at 20 of August 2021. This is tiger. This tiger was sick and died. Actually, we tried to bring the body to Padang for necropsy, but the local people refused our needed. And then the local people insist to bury the tiger in Nagari. They didn't want to lose their village guard. The local community treat the tiger like the tiger body, like a human when we died. Nagari, so, okay. This is the idea. Nagari Ramah Harimau or Nagari Tiger Friendly. Nagari Ramah Harimau is the answer to deal with the customary law community. The aim is to make Nagari able to adapt and mitigate the conflict between human and wildlife. So we involve Adat Paga as a forest guard, especially to handle the conflict. We make a community patrol. We call it Pagari. That is abbreviation from Patroli Anak Nagari. Based on our data, the highest conflict, it happened at Agam, Pasaman, and Pasaman Barat, and Solok Selatan district. Okay. So what are Nagari Ramah Harimau ability? The ability is they have to understand about the human tiger behavior, and they have to adapt with the tiger behavior as well. And then they have to patrol, especially anti-snare patrol. And then they have to protect the forest and their wildlife as well. They make map, and they have to install the camera trap inside the forest. The other thing is they have to handle the conflict and how to resolve the conflict by local wisdom. The other thing is they have to have ability to take the sample in simply way, such as hair, feces, and blood. And then the most important thing is the early warning system at the Nagari. This is about the communication inside the Nagari, and they have to talk until the province level. And then we teach them to how to use a communal cowhouse cage. Okay. To make Pagari has specific skill, we train them. We have already trained Pagari at Agam and Pasaman Barat district. This is the picture when we teach them. And later we will we make Pagari as well at Pasaman or Nagari Sontak Cubada. Okay. What is the regulation to run the Nagari Ramah Harimau? This is the Ministry of Forestry Regulation number 448, 28. This is about a guideline for human and wildlife conflict management. And the other thing, in West Sumatra, governor has make decision number 522.5 for 17/2018. That is about the coordination team and task force for conflict management between human and wildlife in West Sumatra province. And right now we are still working on a drafting West Sumatra Governor circular letter that is about how to conserve Sumatra tiger at district. Okay, about the funding. Nagari Ramah Harimau has legal standing, so it can be funded by APBN. It means that is a government national funding or government province funding, NGO and CSR. We make two pilot project in Agam and Pasaman Barat is funded by BKSDA and Yayasan Sintas, and we will make as well at Pasaman and Solok Selatan. Okay, this is the activity, the Pagari in Agam. They deal with conflict, sun bear conflict in here, and in this one, they deal with tiger conflict in Solok Selatan. Okay, this is the picture of snare patrol. They can patrol in the forest and then to find snare. Snare is very dangerous for, especially for a tiger. Okay, and this one is they have ability to installing camera trap as well. Okay, but the campaigns. We have already made a guideline book, set a guidebook like this in Minangkabau language. So it's make easy for the local people to understand. And this one is merchandise. This is Harimau adalah Minang. It means tiger is Minang. And this is a talk show. It was happened in Global Tiger Day. The topic is how young generation admire the Sumatra tiger. Okay, this is West Sumatra governor regulation. Okay, but the conclusion, Nagari Ramah Harimau is a local wisdom approach to reduce the conflict more effective, efficient in terms of time, and to break local wisdom barriers. Nagari Ramah Harimau with Pagari Patrol is just a reactive traditional knowledge and local wisdom and make it more organized. They know their duty, they have their skill, they have legal standing, and the most important is they have a good position in community. Okay, Minangkabau is land of tiger. It can be happen if we work together, all stakeholders. And then Nagari Ramah Harimau is a new approach and a new hope for conserving the tiger at West Sumatra province. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the insightful presentation, Pak Ardi. So the highlight is the tiger is the village guard. So it's very unique, I think, and this can be scaled up throughout the Indonesian regions, I think, to conserve critically endangered species like tiger. Okay, so welcome back, Silvio. I think he's already be here. And now you can continue your presentation. I think the last presentation is about your framework, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me and see my screen again.
Yes, we can see you.
Thank you, Ardi Andono. Nice presentation. So another reason to favor the use of the term coexistence is the way interest groups understand how they are affected. When there is an antagonism between stakeholders and wildlife, conservation will favor one of the sides, the side of wildlife. That's the mission of conservation. And those people involved will not be happy. If I have a problem with elephants and a conservationist is coming to deal with this, I concluded that he or she will be here to defend the elephant's interests, not mine. The human-wildlife conflict approach, on the other hand, labels the situation as a conflict from the onset, giving it a negative connotation that perhaps the people involved themselves had not perceived by them. This, in some cases, can hinder more than help. And finally, the coexistence approach does not favor either side in particular. The focus is on the relationship itself, on improving that relationship. And of course, this has a much better chance of being received by the public. Another trend in the field is the growing recognition of the importance of bringing about change. On one hand, the researchers have been sweating their shirts to generate information and publish. And today we know a lot about the ecological and social factors behind human-wildlife interactions indeed. And on the other hand, there are many people out there implementing actions in the government and non-governmental sectors. However, all this effort doesn't seem to be taking us as far as it could. To get there, we need be clear on where we want to get, precisely what changes we want to bring about, and how to get there, and demonstrate that we have arrived. In other words, we need a plan. And it is with this in mind that we have been developing a planning process for existence, a workshop process that starts with scoping and goal setting, using that framework that I have just described. Once the participants define the where and when of the plan, in other words, the spatial and temporal scope, what are the interactions, who are the actors directly and indirectly involved, what are the parameters to assess the wildlife and people's situation, and what changes are intended to be made in these interactions. The next question is how to bring about these changes. In the next step of the process, the participants in the workshop then build a map of the system. That is, they identify the factors that directly and indirectly cause the situation they want to change, preferably going beyond the more immediate ecological and human behavior factors to include social factors, institutional, governance, market, cultural factors as well. Please don't bother trying to read this system map. This figure is just to illustrate the complexity that you can get and the different levels of analysis. You can see there the different levels of analysis. And once this model is created, the participants identify the leverage points into the system. That is, the factors in which they can effectively intervene, and from there cause the desired change down the results chain. So those orange boxes are the leverage points, the enter points to this system. And with that, we come to the third stage of the process, the theory of change. Connect actions to products, effects, the desired final impact. Use indicators for each product and effect, and thus generate a framework for monitoring and evaluating results. In the theory of change workshop, an initial step is to have the participants define the final impact they want to cause. For example, to achieve coexistence between people and jaguars. Then all the direct and indirect factors that determine the situation are considered. The participants then choose the specific pathways that the project or program will focus on. For example, the team chooses to increase the size of population, of jaguar population by reducing the killing of jaguars, decreasing the fear of the residents through the production and distribution of informational materials. There are several ways of causing the impact, and the project team will choose the one in which they have the capacity to act. They have the necessary resources, technical capacity, financial and logistical support, time, etc. And there is a systematic way in this workshop to help the team make that decision. This is hypothetical. This is a hypothetical figure just for the sake of illustration. This is what the theory of change of a project looks like. A plan of viable goals with measurable indicators of outputs, effects, and impact. that the whole team knows and agrees with. And in fact, the exercise of creating the theory of change is just as useful to the project team as the plan itself. Everyone leaves this workshop on the same page. The complexity of the theory of change produced in the workshop will depend on the capacity of the participants. The greater and more interdisciplinary the collective capacity of the group, the more complex, complete, and valid the theory of change will be. Once the plan is implemented, the next step is to monitor and evaluate the results, something that few projects do properly. With the theory of change in hand, we also have a framework to monitor and evaluate results. In addition to the quantitative indicators for each of the steps, we can evaluate the effectiveness of the project by looking at the extent to which the desired impact has been caused, the efficacy of the actions by looking at the relationship between inputs and outputs. The more outputs with less inputs, the more efficient. And finally, and this is the focus of this process, we evaluate the efficacy of the actions by looking at the extent to which the expected outcomes are caused. A project must be able to demonstrate its effectiveness, efficacy, and efficiency. And only with a framework like this, and with the ability to measure indicators, which necessarily implies an interdisciplinary research capacity, ecological and social research, and the success of the project be solidly evaluated. These are images of the workshop and their participants. And this is an example of how it looks like at the end. This is the theory of change for Jaguars of Iguaçu project that I mentioned before. It is important to keep in mind the decision in managing human-wildlife interactions can vary in terms of complexity, depending on a number of factors, including the degree of uncertainty in causal relationships and the number of stakeholders. A decision is simple or obvious when the causal relationship is known. You assess the situation, choose what you need, and then just do X, get Y. You just follow a recipe. You don't need to be an expert to do it. There is a way to do it, the best practice. For example, how to make an electric fence to prevent attacks on pets, on domestic animals, or animals in a zoo, like flamingos. But many decisions are complicated, which is when not all causal relationships are known, and there are two or more ways to do things, and this requires expert analysis. There is no one best practice, but good practice. Experts can ultimately create a predictive model. For example, a plan to reduce jaguar persecution outside a particular park. Now, this is the thing. Coexistence, human-wildlife coexistence requires management at larger scales, involving multiple stakeholders whose interactions can be non-linear, with feedback loops and occasional unanticipated outcomes. This is what defines a complex system. Complex systems are not structured and predictable like complicated systems. Its management must be adaptive. Hence, the importance of a robust monitoring and evaluation mechanism, such as the one I described earlier. It puts less emphasis on experts and more emphasis on experimentation. And to complete the framework, chaos is when there are no perceived causal relationships, and the decision maker must then act first and see what happens. This is what we have in crisis situations, such as the one experienced last week by the teams of Parque das Aves and Jaguars of Iguaçu project. My impression and concern is that many projects and programs are now treating as complicated conservation problems are treated as complicated conservation problems that are actually complex in their essence. And in the decision-making for large-scale conservation and coexistence will require professionals to face up the complexity with the necessary skills, which include systems theory, complexity theory, network theory, and learning theories. By the way, these are some of the topics addressed in our community of practice in human-wildlife coexistence, the COP-COEX. We have been learning from each other for over 2 years now. And if you want to know more about it and perhaps join us, visit us on Instagram. I leave it there. And thank you again for the attention, and my apologies for the mess. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Silvio. I think this is very meaningful and fruitful for us. Yeah, you provide us with framework, yeah, framework to assess and then to overcome between the conflict among human and wildlife. I think maybe for the government official here or NGOs activists here, maybe they can practice to use your framework in the site. Okay.
Thank you, Lattice.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy because I was a biologist actually in the past time. Okay, and then we continue with our third speaker. Yes, I think she is from NGOs, kind of NGOs, right? Non-government bodies from Komodo Survival Program. So I'm inviting for Mbak Puspita Insan Kamil. Yes, already here with us, Mbak Puspita, and she will give us a talk regarding community-based human Komodo conflict mitigation effort in North Flores, Indonesia. As we know that Komodo is one of the critically endangered species and endemic in Indonesia. So please share your screen, Mbak Puspita, and then you have 20 minutes to deliver your talk. Time is yours.
All right. Thank you, Mbak. Can you hear me well?
Yes, you sound
see my screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I hope you are well everywhere. My name is Puspita Insan Kamil, and I'm from Yayasan Komodo Survival Program. It's an NGO that working with the Komodo National Park. Basically, we've been working with Komodo National Park for more than a decade, and I myself has been joining the team from 2016 and working precisely on the North Flores, where the human-Komodo conflict is the highest happening within the distribution area of Komodo. As a disclaimer, I'm not a biologist. I have a formal training in academics for social psychology. So I'll be talking mostly about our social psychology approach as well as anthropological approach instead of the biological and ecosystem approach. But I have several data as well from the ecological part that might be interesting for you. And also a part of that, I'll explain how we can achieve you might call it coexistence, but I think it's like a better coexistence between human and Komodo in North Flores at this moment. So why this is important? As you might know, Komodo dragon is the largest lizard in the world that exists today, and it's been endangered. And the IUCN just raised their level recently. And you might know that they inhabit the Komodo National Park area, and it's their main distribution area. And the world know them already inhabit that particular area for a very long time. But what people mostly don't know is that Komodo is actually inhabit area and a large part of area outside of the Komodo National Park, which means they inhabit the area which are not protected. And in Flores, their habitat is protected less than 15%, and that's our most interest for recent years, because we need to particularly monitor and also pay attention on the Komodo dragon population in Flores area. And as you might as you might see here, the locals are aware of the presence of Komodo in Komodo National Park. That's the major difference, and know that they are protected. They've been helped by Komodo in a way of they're making money from tourism, and also they have a particular local folklore about Komodo dragon. They believe that Komodo dragon is a twin of their ancestor, which they don't have it in the forest. In forest, they have a local folklore or local wisdom about 3 animals only: deer, dogs, and also fishes, but not Komodo dragon, which is interesting because Komodo dragon is big, right? But that's one thing that we assessed the first time we came there, that they have no particular attachment or interest in Komodo, and they see Komodo dragon is just like a large pest inside their house or behind my backyard. So the locals are not aware of Komodo's presence, and there is no protection law at that moment when we came to Flores Island, and Komodo is perceived as threat or pest. So if we zoom in this particular area, we're gonna get this map. This is Pota district and Oriung district, where we actually managed to have the data from camera trap that Komodo dragon is largely present in these 2 particular areas. And if you see here, there is a Pota district with 6 villages where Komodo are present, and also 3 villages on Oriung, which is Sambinasi, Kelurahan Nangamese, and Tado, where Komodo dragons are largely present as well. And in Pota, the interesting thing about Pota is that they have this essential ecosystem area, or KEE, Kawasan Ecosystem Essential, which is protected by the government, and the key habitat of Komodo dragon in that forest, but not the Komodo dragon itself. It's more the area that is protected. And human-Komodo conflict were relatively high in several areas, impacting on retaliatory killings. That's also happening in Oriung, which is precisely in Sambinasi, Oriung district, Ngada region, where Tarum Padang, it's a peninsula, so it's an area between the sea and the hills, which is actually a buffer zone of conservation area in North Flores, and one of major habitats where Komodo and deer population are relatively high. We know there that Komodo is actually an enemy of the people, but deer is actually one of the main protein source for the people. So large deer game is happening in Rio. But there is actually a local customary law of Pirong, it's called Pirong in their tribe, is present, but starting to disappear because people don't feel the benefit of Komodo's presence. So very different to the Komodo National Park, where people are really praising for the Komodo's presence, and they see Komodo as a gift from the god. But in Flores, it's not like that. That's the challenge for us when we came there in around 2015 to 2016. With higher hotspots of conflict, we chose this area instead of Pota to be our main focus. And just like what Silvio mentioned, that we also deployed some multidisciplinary approach before and after, including the monitoring of our program, whether it's effective or not to bring the coexistence between human and Komodo in that area. So we have this kind of framework. It's actually our own original framework. We want to organize between the habitat approach, species approach, and people approach. And in all this area, in each area, like the habitat area or species area or people area, there will be intersections that we make some programs in related to this kind of framework. So we'll go into details after this, but as you can see, like for example, the habitat cross species, we'll go into conflict assessment and Komodo pre-monitoring, etc., etc. So we don't want this conservation effort is just like one approach, like from ecological approach, just one-sided approach, but it's a large thing. It's hugely funded, and also it's a large approach that this was the first time we did this approach. So we want to make up kind of, it's not perfect, but good example for our next project in another areas. So let's talk about this one. Like habitat and species, it's two very correlated things here, because species needs habitat, everyone needs home, as well as the animals. So what we did for the first time in the particular area is conflict assessment, and then we did Komodo and prey monitoring. It's actually went hand in hand. So we divided team, like social team, which led by our social scientists doing the conflict assessment. So people were asked like, did any Komodo kill your livestock? What do you feel about it? From qualitative and quantitative methods. So we also deployed some psychological measurements to make sure that the conflict is not only a qualitative feeling, like I feel I hate them. No, it's like we have these numbers, and we correlate the numbers with other variables that ensure us that the conflict is happening, and we know in which part we can tap in the problem. And then in the other hand, the team of biologists did the Komodo and prey monitoring to make sure that, okay, Komodo is present here, so we need to ensure the prey is in good population as well. So when we are doing the intervention for human-Komodo conflict, we are also ensuring that the prey is present, and to give the Komodo the bigger chance of survivability. So this is the pictures of the activities. This is the biologist team that I told you before, and also this is the social team going around the villages, asking the tribe leaders, and then the local people, just useful people, and also the farmers, the fishermen, etc., about the conflict that happened in their regions. And this is also the result of our monitoring, not only Komodo and prey monitoring, but also habitat monitoring. So we mapped out where the conflict is happening, where Komodo is present, where the prey is also present. So it's a holistic approach, you can say. And then let's talk about the people which intersect with species. So we have 3 points of activities. The first one is conflict mitigation. The second one is capacity and awareness building. The third one is perception assessment. So conflict mitigation is more of the, like, you discuss with the government and also the local tribe how to handle this matter, and you also look for the information that you can use for the mitigate conflict, and also like for approaching the local leader of local tribe, because this is very important in Indonesia, just like what Pak Ardiano explained about the problem in West Sumatra. And also the capacity and awareness building was largely done because we believe that any sustainable program needs to leave something for the local people to stand on their feet. So we left them with the capacity, with the enough awareness, and also we measure the capacity and awareness before and after we brought out the project. And we want to ensure that even if we leave this area because we have another research or the funding is just stopped, they will continue our effort in many ways. And also the last one is perception assessment. This is what I mentioned before, that we have this kind of psychological and anthropological approach. So it's like a mix of qualitative and quantitative measurements to ensure that all of this program is successful or not. So we have this pre-test, middle test, and post-test after the program. So the interval is 1 and 2 years, just to make sure that everything that we have done in the area is bringing an impact. So this is the activity. This is the perception assessment that we did. This is awareness building with local people. This is also a capacity building. So we train some of the locals, locals that have this kind of potential to be local guide for tourism, to bring their own guests, and how to explain that to guests that this is a Komodo area, blah blah blah. You can just walk around here but not there, and this is the beach, and you can lay around here but not there, etc. And this is also the awareness building for school students. We also bring out and design an anthropomorphic storybooks, because in Flores they don't have this local folklore. That's why we want to create one and hope that they believe in that, and at least it's becoming a value that is very important for our children, because we are investing in children. In the future, maybe in the next 10 or 15 years, the children that join our awareness program will be the leaders of the village. So that's why we are doing that. And also we have a continuous measurement to ensure that our program in the schools bringing an impact as well. And this is a training for sustainable and protected livestock enclosure. So a lot of problem in human Komodo conflict is because of depredation. A lot of Komodo eating the livestock, but after initial assessment, we knew that actually their method of ranching is also confounding variables, that they just leave their cows or goats in the savannas, and Komodo will find and kill them. So we train them to how to manage your livestock better, along with the training of organic fertilizers, because actually if you manage your ranching in one particular area, you can produce another income from organic fertilizers from the livestock and also the biogas production. And also we train them to build a better enclosure for the goat and cows in this particular project. And the last one is, not the last one, but this is also an important one, habitat and people. And this is the part where we mostly work with BBKSDA NTT, the government authority in the particular area, because we know that at the end of the day, it's only the authority that has power to make a continuous project in this particular area, as well as the local people, because they live there. And so many researchers actually are not based in their particular research area, and that's fine. But we want to ensure that this program will be continuously sustainable, continued by the local authority as well as the local tribes. So this is what we did. We invited some of the local authority. We trained them how to monitor Komodo in their habitat in North Flores, because although North Flores is having similarities with Komodo National Park, there are some places that also share differences. So we trained them to do that, and also we also trained some local tourism boards how to manage this particular area. And also this is our meeting with local authority, and this one is our visitation to Komodo National Park. So you can say like a visitation for local people in North Forest to study how people in Komodo National Park manage Komodo dragons to be the main interest of local tourism effort. And this is the last one, the intersection between habitat species and people, which are legal agreement creation. This is something that I think very similar to Pak Ardi Andono's effort in West Sumatra, and also sustainable ecotourism development. I think one thing that I feel strong as a social psychologist, people won't care about the environment if their basic needs is not fulfilled. That's the thing. So when people are still thinking what we are to eat tomorrow, what we are gonna eat tomorrow, it's hardly a thing about conservation thing, because conservation is actually an abstract concept. And to think about abstract concept and to have the empathy for the environment is very hard when you are still starving. So that's why the sustainable ecotourism development is one integral part that we did in in Flores, because we want them to be independent, and also to see the Komodo as a you can say as a beneficiary for their tourism effort as well. So this is what we did. We trained them to make souvenirs, just like what they have in Komodo National Park, and also we helped to design an integrated map of their particular area, because their area is actually breathtaking landscape, but but no particular or no large tourism effort that in their area at that moment. I know that recently government already tried better in that area starting from 2020, but at that moment they are really hard to access things like that. Like for example, just a simple design for their map. They didn't have any access to that. So we helped them to build this, and we printed it out, and we gave it to them and told them that you can use this for your own benefit. And also in the process, we are making all of this map and all of these brochures. We also involved them, so we sat together in one hall, and we asked them, what kind of information do you want to involve in this particular poster? So you can say that this is a multi-stakeholder meeting to create this kind of map, and they are very proud of it. And at the moment, they also already capable to produce Komodo wooden statue, which previously you only could find it in the Komodo National Park, but they are now very good in crafting that. And this is English training for the local guide. And this particular part is the legal agreement creation between Komodo Survival Program, BKSDNTT, and also the Baar tribe. So Baar is the largest tribe in that area, in Torang Padang Peninsula and surrounding regions. And we got them to sign an agreement that there will be a protection for Komodo dragon and deer. Previously, they have like annual deer game. It's part of their culture. We didn't want to change it, but we believe that we can use it for the further conservation efforts. So they changed it. They agreed to change it to become only biannual from annual game. So it will affect the deer population growth significantly, we believe, and that's one key major success for us in this project. And we couldn't achieve this without our anthropology research effort, because we have this dedicated anthropologists to be living with them, to understand them for more than 1 year, and this is the key of our success there. So we combine the science of biology, ecology, conservation, geography, psychology, and anthropology in 3 years to shift people's perception and attitude towards Komodo dragon. And this is what we have. This is a measurement from Meriung area, our major particular area. We also have the comparison with our pilot area in Pota, but we can say that this is a success. It's still an anomaly, while in 2017, the perceived possibility to coexist with Komodo dropped down, but it bounced back in 2019 with the help of our anthropology researcher, and that was a major success as well. And the impact, we can say that, well, actually the conflict of Komodo and human in Flores area resulting in death in 2016 and 2017. But starting from 2018, where our intervention was just leveled up until 2019, with 4 to 7 conflicts, there was 0 death of Komodo, and we think that it's a key success of our program as well. And so this is just a graph of the Komodo's death, and this is the Komodo site occupancy estimate for the population. Again, I'm not a biologist, so don't ask me about this graph. But from our lead biologist, he said that there is a hope for this population in Flores for Komodo dragon with the decrease of conflicts, and also the important part is that conflict maybe is not diminished by people are becoming more friendly to Komodo in a way of they will report if there is any conflict with Komodo. They don't kill anymore, just like in the past. So there is no retaliatory killing again.
I'm sorry, Mbak Puspita. Yeah. So the time is over, but I think you have 1 more minute to finish your presentation.
Thank you. So the lessons learned, the first one is that psychological and anthropological measurements provided a good baseline to formulate intervention strategies. and using all possible scientific data, both natural and social data, which turn into beautiful multimedia tools to convince the community. It's a very important part. The development of local community-based organization is essential to ensure project sustainability. And there is no instant change. You can't just change people's perception in months and some short programs. There will be ups and downs. The commitment, persistence, and fortitude that is shared among project members in our organization is what brings the success for us. So that's all from me. Thank you for having Komodo Survival Program again to the committee, and you can send any question to my personal email here if you want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Puspita. I think this is very great presentation, very interesting. So many questions addressed to you, but still, yeah, we will address the question at the end of this session. Okay, and then we move to the next speaker. He is Pak Doni Gunariadi. I think he is from Persatuan Gajah Indonesia, so I think elephant lover. Yeah, Pak Doni. Okay, maybe the short biography. So he was a Hall Master of Science, School of Anthropology and Conservation, Grelly Institute of Conservation and Ecology, University of Kent. So, and he will deliver the talk about a better human-wildlife conflict mitigation in Sumatra, challenges and opportunities in using technology. So please welcome Pak Doni. You have 20 minutes to deliver your presentation and time is yours.
Okay, thank you everyone. Good morning, Pak Sylvie over there. Good evening everyone. So I'm Doni Gunariadi on behalf of Indonesian Elephant Conservation Forum. So it's not Persatuan Gajah Indonesia, the Forum Konservasi Gajah Indonesia. Actually, this is the forum for all elephant practitioners and then lovers and also all the supportive for the elephant work joining here as individuals and united in the forum. So we have the forum here with the secretariat in Bogor, but we work toward in Sumatra and Kalimantan because we have two subspecies of elephant for Asian elephant, the Sumatran elephant and Bornean elephant. So in here, just I would like to have more kind of some of our findings, lesson learned, and of course some failures maybe on human-elephant interaction in Sumatra, applied technology perspective, and might be applied as well for other species, perhaps. But because of this, mostly covering about the elephant, so mainly on the elephant things. Can you see my set? Okay. So just preliminary, this is the Indonesian elephant conservation status. We have two subspecies of the Asian elephant, the Sumatran and the Bornean elephant. Sumatran elephant, especially as a critically endangered. So now the populations less than 1,000 until 1,200 at the maximums, and with the Bornean elephants. Population actually quite large in Malaysian side, but the Indonesian side we are still finding the clear evidence on the elephant and the Bornean elephant. So this is just some of the distributions of the Sumatran elephant. As you know, maybe some of you know about this. Most of the population outside the conservation areas, more than 80% of that, and it's very patchy in terms of elephant populations locations. So the red one, actually the elephant population in between of the plantations and also the other remain forest patches. The Bornean one, actually, as mentioned, in the Indonesian side, actually it's only small tips of that in the northern Kalimantan province. Actually, it's quite unique subspecies as well, endemic to Borneo, and in Kalimantan only in Sumbakung landscape in Nunukan district. But as I mentioned, this one is also and the big uncertainty due to part of that because of the remain population actually quite narrow in the boundary of Indonesia and Malaysia. But we're still believing that the population still okay there, and then we do help can manage the population as like in Sumatra. Just to give more updates on the Sumatran elephant, part of that number of Sumatran elephant killed in Sumatra, mainly due to hunting and then the human wildlife conflict, and also part of that with trap snares that maybe Pak Adi also mentioned about this for the tiger, and this is also happening in Sumatra with the Sumatran elephant. And there are also, if you look at back with the populations, the maps, there are some isolated population which is also tend to have more not only isolated but also becoming.
Kami ngambil cutinya Selasa, katanya Len.
Oh, sorry, somebody's talking, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Please continue, Pak.
Okay, yeah, and by province we can see that most of the province that having the wildlife and dead actually in Aceh, because Aceh actually more than 50% of the populations of Sumatran elephant remaining population, and this is one of the stronghold of the subpopulations for Sumatran elephant. And besides that, the other two, the Jambi and Ria, also part of the two largest stronghold population, and also the other one will be Lampung. Most of the killing due to some of the snares, the poaching and poisoning, and also due to the not the electric fence, but we call it electric traps. So the people, especially the farmers, if you look at the picture on the corner, right corner, above right corner, so this elephant got the electrocuted due to 220 volt AC electric currents, which is energized by the maybe ordinary generator set, not the proper electric fence, which has a high voltage but a short, but not the proper one. So it kills not only for the elephant but also with people. So this is the dimensions. So if you look at 2, 3 from the newspaper in the left, so not only elephant that killed by these electric traps, we call it. So people also farmers. There are some farmers also killed due to this electric traps. So usually the landowners initiate or create this electric trap using like ordinary cables, and then they as I mentioned, energized with there's a local genset made in China, Dongfeng. So they turn on the Dongfeng all night and then leave it there like that, and without any monitoring, any observations. So at the end, there are some victims, not only for elephant, but also the humans. The picture on the right actually happening today. So one of the calf of the elephant actually died. And then the trunk actually snapped. And it's almost cut out the trunk, and it's a very horrible picture. And then, so what we can say that this is actually happening, and then this is true, like a real picture of what's happening with the Sumatran elephant conservation in Sumatra. Okay. And this is the same elephant before she died. So you can see finally the trunk was cut by the snares, and it's very hard to get any food because the trunk is the main hand, the main tools for grabbing the foods. So go back with the situations, the real things actually always happening. Human-wide conflict always occur, as you know. And because of we are talking about technology, we say maybe part of that, I can see that from the Silvio, we like just one sections of how to reduce the retail killing, and also part of that to have the elephant conservation and also having the coexistence with people. And this is against like part of that perspective of human-wildlife conflict getting wider into policymakers. And this is things that maybe parallel with Silvio's presentations, that having thought on what things that might be better to have, and then what kind of solution option is also part of that arrangement in every single landscape that has this like similar problem. We always have kind of discussion, and also some of the maybe part of consideration based on the every single background. And just to remind you everyone that in the elephants, why elephant rate crops, part of that mostly because of opportunistic crop raidings due to a source of food free to get, and then mostly opportunistic crop raidings. And part of that may be habitual crop raiding, which is also similar with opportunistic trading, but extended more with the can becoming habitations and tend to have more frequency on this. The obligate one, actually, it's quite rare happening in Sumatra, but because maybe part of that due to the scattered area, and then there are abundance of the plantation, so mostly happening with the opportunist trading. And with the last ones, with the male elephant that having that always having more larger range for the movement, so it might be also more conflict happening in certain area. So this is just kind of type of the raiders in Sumatra mostly. And so the next question is, so what do we do so far? So in terms of human elephant conflict mitigations, the blue one, actually the things that we all, that like in the community level might be part of the like Pak Ardi's presentation in terms of how in the lowest level, in the community level, can do like increasing the early detections mitigations, guarding drives in the elephant back, and then part of that using the like early and simple deterrence using lights, and then part of that we tried the beehives like Lucy Kings that trying in Africa for the African elephant. It helps with the beehives, but actually if you are doing that in Sumatra, then you are dealing with the other things, which is sun bear. The sun bear, where I remember when I was in WCS, tested in WECMIC National Park. Actually, it's quite successful in terms of blocking the elephant movement in some area that located at some beehive. But the problem is the sun bear is coming to your hives, and then attacking all the beehives, and then it's becoming another conflict, which is the sun bear conflict. So that kind of things is not working in some way, in some area, which you have, if you have the sun bear in your conflict area. So the other one is sound wave that I never, honestly, I will never use this, but some people tend to use I mean like the sophisticated one, but the things that like very large noise for like acetylene gun, and then also using the tin can, put it in the small wire, and then the banging bamboos using this acetylene gas, and then also with the some of the ethanol. So it's quite common being used by the farmers here. In the next slide, actually part of the options with the government actually some patrols using the smart spatial monitoring and reporting tools actually happening now throughout the conservation units in the Conservation Provincial Agency and also the National Park units using the smart RBM, the resource-based management, which is applies not only for the patrol, but also for human wildlife conflict mitigation. So in terms of having a nationwide data monitoring and how to record all the data of part of the human elephant conflict or the other human wildlife conflict, I think we have like a more national-wide scheme. But this is, I think, it's a good part of having a national mapping for all the potential conflict by wildlife. The next slide, actually, the small early detections warning system using the batteries and then with wire and then having like noise with the small speaker or using the horn. So, but this is all the traditional one, and then it's getting more like I will say sophisticated using barriers. There are several barriers here. So part of that using the electric fences like you see below, and before that some people using the chili because of the habanero inspired by the Loki Osborne's project in Zambia using the hot chili, but also in Asam Hati using the bot jolokia, which is quite higher than the chili in West Africa. Actually, this kind of things still quite very good, but it takes more effort for local people, and sometimes it depends on the situations. The people tend to leave this behind because of too much work for this one. The other one, which is more like a passive deterrent, but I think it's barriers, which is let's say quite permanent using the elephant-proof fence railway track barrier. And I can show you later on some things that are being conducted by some of the NGO in Aceh province. And I can see that there are some very good indications of saxophone this preventing and blocking some of the elephant movement to the conflict area. Part of that, I think, as mentioned, maybe with Silvio and the others, like a holistic human-elephant conflict mitigation policy, not only addressing kind of options of how to do the mitigations, but also a more holistic way on integrated land use planning, because this is the things that might be also useful on not only just having like a short-term mitigation scheme, but also having more long-term mitigation plan. And part of that, because we see some of the failures of the human-elephant conflict mitigation due to the poor design on how you put some of the mitigation tools, and then without a proper, like maybe, but from the Komodo survival projects that you need, and also mentioned by Silvio, you need to look at more how the efficacy and then the efficiency of the mitigation tool, and then part of that because you believe that all the things that you've been discussed actually managed and discussed by all the people, and then they agree to have this plan. So this is things that also are happening. This is one actually by WCS in Kambas use because elephant always use specific routes. So blocking the road is quite massive, and part of that this is using the barbed wire with this is the quite thorny drum. So the elephant quite intelligent on this, so they're aware of this, and then they don't want to touch this drum. And the other one, which is now like happening and also endorsed also by the part of that, there are some of the community-based electric fences here, like in Aceh, for example. This is one of the initiations in one of the village in PDJ in Aceh. And the idea is having more integrated like this, and it's part of the like in Sri Lanka project that not only having the early detection warning system, but also it has more active warning mechanism, which is there are sensors to detect the elephant movement before entering the crop area, but also to warn all the villagers if and then increase the vigilance of the people here. In the next one, we can see that there are some also part of that the combinations between the early warning system, but also with the barriers. So with the barriers, we think there are some things that maybe with natural and man-made barriers. So there are some forms of maybe like physical barriers, like the cliffs or even deep swamp, and then that's the natural one, but also the man-made, let's say like a canals, concrete fences, or maybe steel fences, but all the things that need an in-depth study related to the movement, etc. Sometimes it also needs a kind of consideration of installation positioning around the forest area, and maybe if this is for the forest that is too small, some people believe that's not too good in the area like that. And also if this is the area that's between large landscape, then it needs a lot of costs, like I would say like building a giant wall like in China. The other one, like this is the around settlement, but again, all the things that about making the barriers needs some of the agreement with not only by villagers but also all with the local government and central government. So this is part of the example. Like this is in Aceh Jaya by the Conservation Response Unit of Aceh, a collaboration with the KSDA Aceh, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, on several areas that needs to be blocked. So using the physical barrier here, and this is part of the example, but not the exact location, but this the other one, but actually part of the canals that quite deep to dig out, and then so the elephant cannot use this as a pathway. But the thing that might be as a symptom, as I said, in the existing, as I mentioned before, poor application of mitigations tools, also given the situation of the poor selection of HSC mitigation strategy. And this is the things that we have so far some challenges in terms of the impact of the conflict. And then this is the things that again, like becoming like a circle, and then in some areas with the high intentions of the conflict, so it gets more stress for some people, not only for the local people, but also all the government agency. So part of that, I think it's good to have like an in-depth of the observation of each of the like mitigation level, not only that, but also, as I mentioned, more kind of long-term mitigation strategy.
I'm sorry, Pak Doni. Actually, the time is over, so maybe you have 1 more minute to finish your presentation.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So this is the things that also we would like to have in the future, because at the moment, right now, we have the scheme by the government, but also from the NGO using the colors, because this is the early detection warning system, and it works right nowadays. And we do hope like having more Android devices actuating deterrent stimulations, and this is something like maybe give more warning system for the peoples. And like this is the one that also mentions in that also happening in Aceh, for example. There is a conservation response unit as the teams that always do the mitigation. The barrier strategy, actually the one that has having the natural and physical barrier. The early warning system, as mentioned, using the the GPS color signal with that also the warning system part of that, and the quite long term using the alternative crops to reduce the intentions of the elephant attack. Just to have another idea, part of this may be quite helpful, but I'm not sure that there are some ideas on using this kind of sensor for the future, because not only for human-elephant conflict mitigation part, but also detecting the illegal killing, the illegal hunting, the people coming to the area. But again, this is just looking at the technology might be useful some days for our work in elephant conservation mitigation system. I think that's all. And and the last one, I'm sure that future technology, which is the effort of mitigation, might help, especially for automation mechanism. Why? Because conflict tends to have a more happening almost every day, and then people getting bored with this was, but actually having more kind of this technology can help and ease the pain of the people that happening with the conflict. And of course, a very good early detection information and reliable deterrent is needed always in an area that have a high hotspot of conflict. Thank you very much, and good evening, good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Doni. So this opened our mind, about the technology to mitigate conflict between human and wildlife. So it has been developed many technologies to help us, to assist us to mitigate the conflict. Okay, so the next speaker is Muhammad Silmi. So Pak Silmi, you're already here. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope that you are healthy. And he is a biodiversity division manager, PT Surya Sawit Sejati. So I think the previous speakers from scientists, government authority, and then NGOs, and then now we will hear from your perspective and your practices from private sectors. So please welcome Pak Silmi. You have 20 minutes to deliver your talk, and then this is the end of the speaker, and then followed by the Q&A session. Thank you. Please take your time, Pak Silmi.
Thank you, Ibu Laras. So I will share screen. I'm sorry, a little bit. Sorry. So I'm sorry, a little bit technical things. So okay. Can you see my presentation?
Not yet. You need to double click your file and then we can see your presentation.
I think I did skip it. Does that work?
It doesn't work, so we could not see your screen.
Share, new share, I think.
You just need to click on your file presentation. Okay.
Is that work now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So thank you very much. Sorry for a little bit technical things. Yes, that's experience from the private sector that's not used to so many scientific things. But again, thank you for the chance. I'm from the oil palm company, representing oil company here that we call United Plantation. And at this moment, I will present the role of private landowners in wildlife conservation and management, mostly talking about what we have done in our companies. Just for bring your idea a little bit, this company is a oil palm sectors company located in the central Kalimantan. We call the PT Surya Sawit Sejati with 18,000 hectare concession or permit, consists of 1,300 employee and member of Indonesian Sustainable Palm Oil and also Roundtable Sustainable on Palm Oil. So yes, a little bit just a background, because this company modern, not I say modern, but current company must adhere with the spirit with sustainable palm oil, which consists of pillar, oil palm production, environment, social, community, which is for us, at least for our company policy, we take care of these three pillars. But for sure, at this moment, we only talking about environment because our focus about environment and could be a little bit about conservation activities and what the kind of protection we have done here in this company. So to support our concern, our goals on conservation or environment, for sure it's a bit task, because oil palm company mostly talking about the production, money from the yield, the oil palm production from the fruit. But because we have got to achieve what we call the sustainable palm oil, we want to make sure our company doing the right thing. That's why the first thing that company needs is policy, and policy to, for example, policy to protect orangutan because we are in Borneo, and also protecting environment, including folklore and fauna that has been decreed, what we call released by our company. So that we need one division. So company decide to have one division where people just concerned, focus on achieve the goal on target on the environment, green environment, let's say like that. So this division never think is focused on the managing conservation and environment. For example, this just giving you example because we're not talking anymore about the oil palm. We have a ornithologist background, GIS, botanist, data management, limnologist, zoologist, and some of the ranger to make sure our conservation area and environment activities achieve as per target. So this biodiversity division itself have a core objective. If oil palm company, that's mostly about the oil palm, but we only focus on these things. First, sample species monitoring and research, integrated pest management, rehabilitation, fire management, conservation awareness, and maintaining for sure our high conservation value area, and also carbon stock. We help that standard. So including that for sure patrol illegal activity in the part of maintaining our conservation, high conservation area. So about our area have for us here, that's really nice habitat type. We have 5 habitat type: lowland dipterocarp, heath forest, karangas, and also freshwater swamp that very rich of fish, mangrove forest, peat forest. That's all in our management, and that's all located in our concession, inside our concession or permit. Just for your information, that 6,500 hectare conservation area has been allocated by this company, or equal 30% from land concession. For us is a quite big ratio or percentage if we compare with the land concession. Is 30%. Only 70% of land bank planted by oil palm. So this is just kind of coffee for us. I mean, we keep this spirit, we keep this, I can't say the motto or whatever it is, but we always believe that every little space has biodiversity, irrespective of its protection status. Oil palm company should be encouraged to and be responsible for doing their part in biodiversity conservation, including collaborating with communities, government, and partner organizations to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. So we believe about this. And just give an idea about general achievement. For us, at least, it's a general achievement. We record 485 animals, 300 more plants. And this record, not just by doing this recently, but we start since 10 years ago by doing a proper, what we call the ecological survey technique. that's standardized. And also we collaborate with the local university, NGO, and also what we call the authority like BKSDA or BKSDA. And we also concerned about which almost people neglected or forget. I don't say want to forget, but not concerned about water quality. But our company decided to observe, monitoring every year the number of phytoplankton, the density, diversity, and at least 96 phytoplankton we have record. That's also 34 zooplankton. That's just idea about how rich our area in terms of biodiversity. We also have 350 hectare areas in plantation landscape. Around 165,000 native tree species, local tree species has been planted in our rehabilitation area. We also start doing ecological studies using radio telemetry and leopard cat, king cobra, Sumatran cobra, blood python in our landscape, in our plantation, and promote biological pest control. That's important to promote this one, but I will explain after that, because we want to use wildlife to control pests in our plantation. This is just to give an idea about the composition of animal and plants. We have 14 species considered as endangered species, 2 critical endangered, and based on Indonesian law, we have 74 protected animals. So for us, it's very important to manage this conservation, at least in our area. And we believe all of us here agree, because so many animals and rich of biodiversity there. Just simple to bring you is that we can easily find it. But yes, we can easily, because we have a camera trap, a bunch of camera trap every year, and using grid system and periodic we review it. So this animal just can easily find it in our conservation, like a flat-headed cat, clouded leopard, orangutan for sure, Sunda pangolin, proboscis, and even for kind of bird, very difficult for some people to see the storm stork, but they just hanging around in our conservation. Fast gharial, which is come to endangered species recent status. So just to bring you about what we can find in this. So like we have mentioned, we have type of habitat of mangroves. Then company have decided 1,200 hectare protected mangrove areas in our concession. You can see from the sky with the drone picture. But again, the most important is that's a habitat of a rabbit dolphin, which protected and even become endangered status based on that current status. And we can find it in a river next just our conservation area. We believe because we have many fish in our river system inside our plantation. So what type, because it's about conflict happen, but at least it just gives information what frequently type of conflict emerge in our conservation area. We call the silent killer illegal snare trap, because 6,000 hectare conservation, that's really rich for us also, and so many people surround just set up the snare trap, and you see that somebody just be killed by die in our conservation area. We collaborate with ranger, and also sometimes we bring along the BKSDA as authority in this region. Another thing that's the problem is handmade bomb that they mostly use for hunting wild boar. That also threat our ranger, because if we hit this or step on this, they will just blast. And that's also the issue in our area, because everybody, a lot of people who can make a handmade bomb. And also what we call the hunting and arrival, that I think this is a serious issue for, I know it could be Indonesia, because that's quite easy to buy in the store, just in the market, everybody can buy it, and they're just doing shooting everything, like leopard, cat, bird, and everything. Sometimes for food, sometimes just for fun. That's the problem, because kids, adult people, or even old people, that's just hanging around with this arrival. And actually, because Borneo is a wetland area, so many fish, and also for sure that's a habitat for what we call the turtle. But the fishing activity, sometimes irresponsible people just left the hook hanging around, and they just left it, and that hit our animals, like mostly the turtle and some of water bird. That's also come a problem of conflict happen in our concession or in our managed area. And this is for sure everywhere because the demand of the wood is increased, but the resource is limited. So there's a huge conservation area that we manage. We also struggle with this issue. That's easy. For sure, this will create conflict in the future with animals because the loss of habitat. But we will always try to reduce it. And all of this activity we record in the smart system. We also adopt the smart system since 2013. So we record very well where they are and what species, what threat, and we can pull out for information to make a priority of patrol and management. And for sure, wildfire, everybody don't want to have this, but this can happen because people just throw the cigarette or everything then and we come with trouble. But we do our best to manage this one. But again, this is also a conflict that wipe out all of the animals in the conservation area. And simply, but sometimes it's sad also, we also have a issue with the roadkill because the animals just cross the road and they just die, and that's why we put the signs. So to mitigate that all, we have so many activity with community. I don't explain what activity is that, but at least we have a socialization and encourage them to make them aware with conservation activity and protect that, and hopefully they support also. And we also with the kids in the school, we have a quiz or painting competition and something to make an awareness that they're aware about this conservation and what conducted by our company. So not just that, we also have a little bit, just a little action, a little bit about initiative about wildlife ecology and plantation landscape, because for us, because we don't know what animal, how they adapt and everything about the oil palm plantation. So we need to know about this wildlife ecology here. We study with the radio telemetry. Since 2014, we set up a study about the king cobra. With at least 12 king cobra has been set up with the radio telemetry. We tracking, a day and a night time, as well as the Sumatran cobra who kill the rat and everything. We also set up the research about this, and 12 Sumatran cobra has been tracked every day at night with the radio telemetry, as well as leopard cat. And all of this just to give the purpose of this to give us idea how the animals adapt or behave in a plantation landscape. Like a leopard cat, we come with the data about their home range. The home range becomes smaller compared with the forest. In the forest, let's say they come to 14 kilometers square, but we are here in only 1 kilometer square. That's important because could be a bunch of food availability like a rat. So this information is important to us to know, and sometimes that support us also to manage our issue like rat issue, because a rat is most threat to our business because rat will eat the oil palm. But now we stop using poison, chemical poison, and start encourage the company to left all the chemical poison to control the rat, because we have biological pest control and natural pest control like a leopard cat, Sumatran, and etc. etc. So this is important why we invest our research on this context. So the reality, I want to bring us the reality. Our company have decided since 2010 with the policy, no killing orangutan, and we keep our orangutan. Now, no single report to BKSDA, even we work together with BKSDA. When we saw orangutan, we never report as a conflict. We let them grow. We let them grow in our company, in our plantation. So because we know recently we have a bunch of this, and interestingly, they adapt, they eat the fruit oil palm, and we think it's a small portion. And now they are mating, they grow, and yes, seems they are start to adapt. But so many things we need to answer about it. They are the fact that they are grow, and what the question is, what we should do, and can we live together with them? How we support their life? Anyone have idea? That's hanging around in our head today. And as same as also the issue where the false gharial, just the problem with the false gharial, that's because our conservation is not until the edge of the riverine, because this riparian area That's not part of our conservation managed area. But this false garrulness just few meters outside our concession, which is in the right, we don't have full right to control this. But again, this animal don't know where is the border of the company's conservation area. So I just bring this issue situation. We thought we need to think bigger. We must managing species in the landscape, not only in concession permit area. That today we have idea about this one, because animal doesn't recognize PTS as a border. They only knows about forest, but our concession area or permit area is limited. I bring you to this situation. This is a real situation. Our map, our plantation. For example, this map shows that our conservation area, you can see our mosaic. We just left every single forest. We never touched. We only plant oil palm in non-forested area, only grassland. So that's why we have a bunch of fringe of forests that connected one to the other. And in the east part, or the right side of it, the TN is Taman Nasional Tanjung Puting. Our conservation area just part of the, just next to Tanjung Puting. But if you see more, this is a picture that's actually still a forest available connected between our conservation area where we manage, and this forest connected to Tanjung Puting. But this forest status, legal status is HPK. In quote, is belong to the government. So question rise. What happened with the animal? They don't know this border. When we concern, when we want to manage this one, but somehow we don't have a right to, and in theory, we don't have right to go outside beyond our border. But this is some question. If we want to do this one, if we want to put our energy or effort to conserve the animal, we need to think bigger. That's why we set a landscape, not just our permit. So what the permit require, it's like a research activities, management, and of this landscape. We need to know this about this. I share this one as part of what the challenge we have today and opportunity could be, can be. I want to share this because could be some input from this even to us. And what kind of regulation can support to the research and management action? As a third question, what is government authority SOA for such circumstance for this situation? What we want to see what the government authority SOPs for this condition, and also we like to know how can we manage species in this area, government and private land ownership like this company. Is it possible to work together with the spirit to conserve the animal, not just consider the permit border on the concession? So it is mostly general scenario where we hanging, or at least in this around our company, they always say that conservation effort in oil palm plantation often remain lackluster or often neglected. Biodiversity is only considered within the conservation area, not in the entire plantation landscape and beyond. Ambiguous legislative regulation support the conservation effort in the plantation landscape. So we still don't have a clear how they support, because we just know there are so many animals, but we still feel like this. Few limited example of corporate public sector collaborating with environment, social and biodiversity conservation. So not so much without example for this. That's why we want to start to how we deal with this situation. Most conflict emerge around plantation landscape, but no clear mitigation roadmap. Primarily only reaction rather than proactive or preventive action. That's common in situation what we're facing now. So at the last is the take-home message. We think that kind of take-home message because we want to share and also get an input, whatever it is. But again, that's important for us, for conservationists, for activists, or government to see about this, that an increasing number of private landowners have shown commitment to conserve biodiversity and their land concession. But effective species management needs a collaborative effort at landscape level. preservation of existing laws when called upon, but they should also encourage collaboration, coordination with private landowners to assist in biodiversity conservation and partnering to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. Small population of endangered species are removed from fragmented habitat and placed in rescue center and or released into protected area that are already saturated. This is common because if they show around town, oh, it must be translocation, something like that. That's the most common practice, but we need to bring this concern to us here that many of this can be managed. Actually, we thought that many of this can be managed as a part of large meta population, coordinated through co-management between private companies, landowners, NGO, and government. We believe that, but we need to try if that work or not. But yeah, we fight to simple translation process. And the last is private landowners often invest capacity and budget to manage biodiversity within concession and beyond. So we private also invest money to manage our biodiversity, but local authorities rarely take advantage of this to offset workload and operational budget. So this kind of share or from us at least bring this concern, and we hope as a company also get the feedback for everybody who interested for this issue. So thanks for the time. Only that I can share with all of us here about our effort to conserve and hopefully that mitigate the conflict in the future. And if any question, you can text me, email with the email address below. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Silmi, for your sharing your experience as practitioners on private sectors. Okay, so we still have, I think, 12 minutes for questions and answer. So please, for attendees or participants, if you have questions to whom your questions, please put on the chat box or Q&A. And I think we already have 2 questions from panelists. Okay, I will share to you. Okay, first questions to Mbak Puspita from panelists. I think you already answered, but would you like to elaborate more directly? So apologies if I missed part of your presentation. It is interesting to know there is such difference of perceptions towards Komodo dragon. Is this perception built traditionally or simply from the presence of Taman Nasional or tourism? Please elaborate more, Mbak Puspita.
Okay, thank you, Mbak. I guess this question is about the perception between Komodo National Park locals and forest area, I think. So if that's the case, I'm afraid that I don't have the answer because we don't have this measurement before and after the national park was built. But we have several hypotheses, me and the anthropologists actually. The first one is actually because the Komodo National Park is not built, but it's an island, it's an isolated island. So people interact more with Komodo dragon. The difference with the Flores Island, Flores is so huge. So people don't really interact with Komodo dragon, and Komodo dragon in Flores is actually a bit shy. They don't really like to meet people. Actually, it's different with the Komodo National Park. So it's really like a very different condition. But that particular hypothesis may be broken because one small island in North Flores, it's called Longos. In this island, people also live in a very small island with Komodo dragon, but they also do not have any local folklore about Komodo dragon. So I'm afraid that's not the case. Maybe it's just because the habitat that they share with Komodo dragon is already long ago. So people in Komodo National Park has more positive attitudes towards Komodo compared to the ones in Flores area. And in Flores, I think there are a lot of conflict with wildlife, not only Komodo dragon. I think with crocodiles as well, and also with macaques and also another animals. So I think there is a better explanation, and I'm afraid I don't have it at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for a brief answer. Okay, we move to the second question. Actually, Sylvia and Pa Adi already answered, but please, would you like to elaborate more? So the question is, do you see the different perceptions towards wildlife in your area of research? Maybe Sylvia first, please.
Yes, sure, thanks. Yes, as I said, as I in the box, we have been monitoring and evaluating changes, but I just want to stress that what ultimately matters is change in behavior. I think Puspita will agree with that. It's through behavior that people change the situation. Anything else, what people think and what people feel is important only to the extent that they cause behavior. So because behavior sometimes is challenging to evaluate, especially when we're talking about illegal behavior. Killing a jaguar is illegal in Brazil. So sometimes the best we can do is to measure those factors that cause behavior. For example, the perception of social norm. In other words, the perception of how socially acceptable or even desirable it is to kill jaguars. Also, the perception of control over the situation. When people believe that they have a control over their situation with jaguars, they will be more tolerant. If they perceive that they don't have any control, if they are there's no support from anyone, from government, from any institution, they will be less tolerant. And third, trust in the environmental agency, trust in the park's authority, trust in the project, something that we've been also monitoring. The more people trust the project, the more people trust the park's authority, the more tolerant they will be to jaguars. So it's just something I want to add to what I've wrote before. Sometimes it's best we can do is to monitor change in those factors that cause what ultimately matters, which is behavior. In our case, the behavior of killing jaguars, retaliatory preventive killing of jaguars.
Okay, great. Thank you, Silvio. And Pardi, maybe would you like to add more about this question? Yes, please.
About the different perspective. Maybe the different perspective come from the outsiders, not from the local people. Sometimes the outsider, they cannot buy the land, and then the outsider, maybe they feel afraid with the tiger as well, so that make the conflict more complicated. It's happened in a border of West Sumatra province, such as in Riau and Jambi. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So participants, any other questions or comments or another sharings maybe? We still have a bit more time. So if you still have comments or questions, please. But if not, maybe my questions addressed to Pa Doni. So it is quite interesting about technological development to mitigate human and wildlife conflict. So I would like to ask you about the commitment of the government to develop the technology. In the case of Indonesia, to what extent the commitment of the government or the interest of the government to support the mitigation of the conflict using a technological advancement? Pak Doni?
Yeah. Hello. I think there is a problem with my video, so I turn on the video, but I don't know. I cannot. is it turn on, but it's okay. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of commitment, actually, like the one that we had in with the collaboration with BKSDA, the Provincial Government Conservation Agency, Provincial Conservation Agency of Aceh, actually with support with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, they will have more, like, let's say, using the GPS collar. That nowadays we don't have that technology in ourselves. That we always import it from South Africa, from African wildlife tracking. So, but I think that part of that using the GPS collar for detecting and also monitoring specific herds size. Like usually there are like big elephant populations in certain area with the high conflict situations. Then the government would like to have like a kind of mapping the range of the elephant population, but not only for that, but also to mitigate for any crop raidings happening to the area. That's for kind of support. And not only that, maybe using, actually this is the things that in terms of using the other technology, it's quite low, but the other things that might still experiment using the thermal imaging just to map all the remaining populations because of the heat map from the elephant. I think it's quite useful to detect the elephant movements and also to recognize how big are the populations. But until nowadays, we don't have that kind of device like a drone that can hover quite long and also carry. There are some of that, but it's still quite expensive, but not in the long durations. But there is still opportunity to get more, I can see, more efficient, cheaper, and also easy to use. But it might be not only that good for elephant, but also bad for elephant, because if this kind of device being used by bad people, they can hunt the elephant as well. So it's still like how to use the knife. Are you going to use it for the good or for the bad? Always be like that.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I think this is context, yeah, especially in your case. Okay, I think the last question from Mbak Puspita to Pak Silmi. So yes, thanks for your insight from corporations. She's like to know that if the commitment is actually pushed by RSPO or also by the government for corporation doing it, and she's curious why palm oil plantation don't put their RSPO certification on the product's packaging to help consumer identify your product. Or is it already changed? For example, like FSC, yeah, already get in the product. So please, Pak Silmi. Pak Silmi. Yes, you can answer.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ibu Puspita. I would like to a little bit answer this maybe important question, but again, that's for our company under RSPO umbrella, we have commitment to become a sustainable palm oil. But for sure, every company have different way to implement that one. And we don't want to talking about the rest of the company, but when it comes to this company, PTSS as a United Plantation, actually the mother company, we never consider the rest of our plantation. We just do our best for the what we call for the wildlife and environment, especially conservation activity. But the suggestion about to put logo and something like that, and actually if you can track the product in the RSPO website, which company has been registered, where the supply chain and everything. But sometimes for sure the downline product, for sure they only said that the company, I don't want to labeling what company is that, they will say that they use from sustainable palm oil, but for sure not mention which company they are. But our company is RSPO, and we want to show our best, and hopefully, because we only small company with only 18,000 hectares. What about the rest of the company in Indonesia? Well, I don't want to say the water brand, but they have more than 500,000 concession. Imagine if they adhere the spirit, how we can achieve, imagine we can achieve how the conservation strategy together. But again, that's depend whether this company will do or not. So what our spirit is, just do our best, hopefully influence the rest, because conflict from the previous presentation that's happened outside conservation area. The problem is conservation area, sometimes terminology, they use terminology of right or laws, conservation, natural resource, but animal doesn't recognize conservation area like Taman National. They only recognize forest, and the forest left outside conservation part still huge. Conflict always emerge in the outside conservation status. That's why we said we want to do our best, and we want to get support from the conservationists, academicians, government. Let's work together, because so many things we can do together. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Silmi. And then that's the end of this session for today. So once again, thank you very much for joining us, for the speakers. So very interesting topics that you delivered to us to share about your experience based on your background. And I personally would like to apologize if I have a mistake during facilitating this session. For all participants, please don't forget, we still have other sessions. Yeah, we still have 2 sessions left on the next week and next week again. So please stay tuned, and you can check on the website www.wecmic.id. So I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much, and I hope that all of us are staying safe and healthy. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Pak Ardi,
Thank you.
Pak Silmi,
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Pak Puspita, Mr. Silvio, Laras,
Mr.
and Pak Mary.
Silvio already not yet. Thank you, Pak
Ibu Mary.
Silmi, Pak Ardi, Pak Doni,
Bye-bye.
Pak Puspita.
Bye-bye.
Izin
Really
leave
nice
ya.
to meet you all. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yes.
Laras.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Mary.
Hopefully we can meet in person, Silvio.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
When I go to Indonesia, that's top in my wish list.
Yes. Looking forward to see you in person.
One day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here we finally get the last sessions for today's symposium agenda. And I would like also to thank all the participants who joined by Zoom meeting or YouTube. For the next week agenda, we still have Symposium 4 with an interesting topic about technology impulse optimization to address biodiversity management and conservation issues, such as surveying, identification, policymaking, and law enforcement. So be sure to join us on next week. On behalf of committee, we apologize if in guiding this event made mistakes or offend someone here. At the end of my word, I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Sekian dari saya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Indonesia is one of the largest archipelagic countries in the world, with more than 17,000 islands that spread over an area of more than 2 million kilometer squares. Indonesia is host to several unique ecosystems containing a large number of diverse species. At least 10% of the world's flowering species, which counts to over 25,000 species, flourish in Indonesia. There are also 12% of the world's mammals, 16% of reptiles, 17% of birds, 6% of amphibians, and over 45% of fishes, all of which are parts of the nation's lush biodiversity. In order to preserve its biodiversity, which also contributes hugely to the world, Indonesia has taken significant steps in accordance to the national and global target on biodiversity framework. The government has allocated more than 500 units of protected areas spread throughout the country, with the total coverage area of 22 million hectares terrestrial and 20 million marine protected area. Because of its uniqueness and universal values, 6 protected areas are recognized as World Heritage Sites, 16 Biosphere Reserves, 7 Ramsar Sites, and 7 ASEAN Heritage Sites. Many studies and researches has also been conducted to identify plants and animals to assess their potential uses for medicine, food, energy, and biocontrol for chemical hazard. Some community-driven activities such as ecotourism has also contributed to the effort to preserve Indonesia's biodiversity, which also encouraged cooperation among local stakeholders. The results are heartening. By 2019, Indonesia has been able to increase the population of endemic and priority species. Communities have also enjoyed benefits from this improved environment through ecotourism, environmental services, and other significant conditions, which contribute to their quality of life as a whole. There is little doubt that Indonesia's vast biodiversity plays a hugely significant role in reducing the impacts of climate change. By preserving its biodiversity and its ecosystems, Indonesia can help support the entire planet's sustainability and ensure a better future for all humankind.
Sejarah Fakultas Kehutanan. UGM resmi didirikan pada tanggal 19 Desember 1949 dan merupakan universitas yang bersifat nasional. Selain itu, UGM juga berperan sebagai pengemban Pancasila dan sebagai universitas pembina di Indonesia. Pada saat didirikan, UGM hanya memiliki 6 fakultas dan salah satu di antaranya adalah Fakultas Pertanian. Dalam perkembangan selanjutnya, melalui Surat Keputusan Menteri Perguruan Tinggi dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Nomor 99 Tahun 1963, Fakultas Pertanian dan Kehutanan UGM terpisah menjadi 3 fakultas, yaitu Fakultas Pertanian, Fakultas Teknologi Pertanian, dan Fakultas Kehutanan. Dengan demikian, Fakultas Kehutanan UGM secara resmi dinyatakan berdiri pada tanggal 17 Agustus 1963. Dekan pertama Fakultas Kehutanan UGM adalah Profesor Insinyur Sudarwono Harjosudiro. Berdasarkan SK Direktur Jenderal Pendidikan Tinggi, SK Dirjen Dikti nomor 163 tahun 2007 tentang pengaturan program studi dan Surat Keputusan Rektor nomor 89 tahun 2010 tanggal 1 Februari 2010 mensahkan perubahan keempat program studi di Fakultas Kehutanan menjadi satu dengan nama Program Studi Kehutanan. Program Studi Kehutanan terdiri dari 4 bagian, yaitu 1. Departemen Manajemen Hutan, 2. Departemen Silvikultur, 3. Departemen Teknologi Hasil Hutan, dan 4. Departemen Konservasi Sumber Daya Hutan. Di Fakultas Kehutanan terdapat Dewan Perwakilan Mahasiswa atau DPM yang berperan sebagai badan legislatif mahasiswa dan Lembaga Eksekutif Mahasiswa atau LEM. Kemudian terdapat 4 himpunan mahasiswa minat. Di antaranya yaitu Keluarga Mahasiswa Manajemen Hutan atau KMMH, Himpunan Mahasiswa Budidaya atau HIMABA, Family of Forest Product Technology atau Foresttech, dan Family of Forest Conservation atau Forestation. Di samping itu, terdapat Badan Semi Otonom atau BSO yang meliputi organisasi pencinta alam atau Mapala Silva Gama, Komunitas Seni Kehutanan atau KSK, Keluarga Mahasiswa Islam Kehutanan atau KMIK, dan Forestry Study Club atau FSC. Sedangkan International Forestry Student Association atau IFSA dan Keluarga Mahasiswa Kristen Kehutanan atau BONITA termasuk ke dalam non-BSO.
FFI bekerja di Indonesia sejak tahun 1996. Itu awalnya bersama dengan LIPI untuk melakukan penelitian-penelitian, terutama penelitian terkait dengan harimau Sumatera. Kemudian berkembang, kemudian kita ada kerjasama dengan Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan, waktu itu Kementerian Kehutanan, terkait dengan pengelolaan spesies-spesies yang dilindungi. Tantangan terbesarnya adalah kata kuncinya sebenarnya kepedulian. Ya, kata kuncinya adalah kepedulian. Kalau semua sudah peduli, maka secara umum sebenarnya pekerjaannya sudah done. Tapi masalahnya itu, bagaimana kita mendorong semua pihak untuk peduli menyelamatkan planet kita ini bersama-sama. Itu tantangan yang paling besar. Kearifan lokal masyarakat juga sangat penting di sana. Jadi di lain pihak kita melihat ada ancaman, tapi di lain pihak juga kita melihat ada kearifan masyarakat untuk menjaga hutannya. Nah, itu yang kita coba untuk dorong untuk dikembangkan ke sana. Planet kita ini yang sustaining the planet, itu jangka panjang paling panjang kita. Jadi itu tujuan jangka panjang keberadaan FFI. Bukan hanya di Indonesia, tapi di dunia.